The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
This is a very sensitive mission we're on. And because of this, I am sure that I, King David, I'm going out to battle today.
No, King, we can't let you march out with us. You must not go out, because if we are forced to flee, they won't care about us. Even if half of us die, they won't care. But you, King, you are worth 10,000 of us. It will be better for you to give us support from this city. I think that's the best thing we can ask of you to do. We cannot allow you under any means to march out with us.
Okay. That makes sense. Whatever seems best to you all, I will do. All right, soldiers. I have one last word to say, and I am saying it in the presence of everybody. Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, please deal gently for my sake with the young man, Absalom.
I have a few questions for you. After everything Absalom has done, is he beyond forgiveness? Has he wronged David so much by his vile acts that he has lost his father's love? This week we are discussing 2 Samuel chapter 18 and exploring the events of David's army versus Absalom's men. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast.
I'm Nakhaz.
I'm Earl Roberts. See, the good thing with the Zoom format is they can at least see our names. And I actually switched my name on this one. So, good thing is going for us. But hopefully everyone had a great week. Yeah, man, the world's getting interesting. But hopefully everyone had a great week out there. Had some time to focus on God. Definitely, try to spend some time with God every day. Kind of brings me to a point. It wasn't gonna be my thought that I have today, but it kind of fits in. So much people think giving back to God, what's his own is just related to money and finances, but also it's God gives us the gift of life, gives us the gift of having more time on this earth, and so honestly, you should be spending time with God every day too. I fall short in this area sometimes, so not holier than thou. First to admit it. Something I definitely could work on and should be working on. So, because at a certain point is more than just doing your little daily devotion sometimes. First is probably trying to read the verse of the day, get consistent with that. Then actually doing a devotion every day, get consistent with that. Then there's different levels and ways you can spend time with God. You read about some of these prophets in the Bible and patriarchs in the Bible and the time they spent with God. I'm like, woo, yeah. I definitely ain't there yet, but, definitely something we all should be working on. And it definitely does improve your day, your mood, just your outlook on life during those days, that time. So, yeah, man, definitely important.
Yeah, I actually, man, my desire to have deep meditation and prayer in the morning, bro, it's it just ain't been there for a few weeks now, probably going on 3 weeks. I just wake up I don't know. I just be so just unmotivated. But I will say though that when I on top of that, and I'm more than likely on top of everything, just in life. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like starting my day in that way allows me to conquer my day. You
Mm.
know, so like I still read even when I don't even retain anything or I'm not even really paying attention while I read. You know what I'm saying? Like I still go through the motion that way. I don't backslide too far. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it's definitely ups and downs with it. Because if you had asked me 2 months ago, or even I can be real from like December to June, I just couldn't wait to read. You know what I mean? Like, and I was reading all day. I was listening to videos, like on YouTube. I'd be watching them when people break down certain things, and I was like obsessed with the word in that
Mm-hmm.
level. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just listen, and I just eat that up all the time. And I don't know, I just as there's different like problems in my life arise, and I gotta spend my time doing this, or I overslept, so I gotta hurry get to work. And like just the pressures of life has been distracting me, and I'm also want to admit that as well. But once you get that under control, I feel like I have a higher quality of a day, and I just feel more connected to God, and I just feel more free and less shame and guilty. You know what I'm saying? When I spend good amount of time in the Word and communicating with God daily.
And that's an absolute fact. It's so funny like how you say like the pressures of life get to you. And man, I'm the same way. Guilty as ever, right? And I use this as an excuse sometimes. And like I even find myself just like you saying, like, oh, I'm gonna read just to read, but I ain't really like absorbing nothing. I ain't trying to read into it. I ain't really trying to understand. I'm just trying to read. Like we're just treating it as like a checklist on the Bible, like the checklist on the Bible, but a checklist, like a checklist. I'm just like, did I read the Bible today? Yes.
Yep.
But it ain't really supposed to be like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's supposed to be, again, like getting to know someone you love. Is it one thing to just be in their presence, or is another thing to actually like be there, like communicating and getting to know each other and actually being caring for and understanding and the sympathy, the empathy, all that different stuff. So like when you just treat God as a checklist item, really and truly can't even say you're building that relationship. But I mean, God might, like, here's the thing, the Holy Spirit is so wonderful and God is so wonderful. Like even in the checklist, you still are touched and moved and you can still pick out something, but it's more of a surface level relationship versus a deeper understanding what God desires from us, I would say. But yeah, something I definitely need to work on. Like, some is like just like you, like those months, some months you're just like on fire, man. Some weeks on fire, some days you're on fire, and then you just hit a wall. Right. Or something like happens and throws you off your pivot. And then it's like you just break the cycle, and now it's like, I used to be here. But now I'm kind of in a valley right now, and I need to get back. Like you find yourself, and you're like, okay, time to like course correct. No, it ain't saying I got to go back. I'm trying to get back to where I was, but it's like training, losing weight, going on a fitness journey. You got to start from where you're at and work your way back to where you want to be each time. So, yeah, just a little bit of encouragement, to everyone out there. So this week we are getting into 2 Samuel 18. 2 Samuel 18. And last week we left off with King David fleeing the city of Jerusalem.
Yeah, I would say.
I had a brain fart just now. I was like, Judah? I was like, Judah isn't right. Jerusalem? That sounds about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like fleeing the capital city of Jerusalem because his son Absalom, who was Tamar's sister, who got raped by their brother Amnon, who Absalom killed and got banished from Jerusalem. And David brought him back because he felt kind of guilty for banishing Absalom. And now Absalom came up with this scheme to win the hearts of the people and to overthrow his father as king. So we had the people, kind of coronate him as king, crown him king. And so David just, didn't want to cause too much of a fuss in the capital city. I personally think he didn't want to cause the capital city get destroyed because between a full-on civil war. He's like, I'll leave. And he literally told the priest, if God wants me back in the city, I'll come back. And like, I'll just see what God has for me in store. Like, take the ark back in the city. I know that, God is a one true living God and doesn't, isn't that ark per se. And it's better for the ark and the presence of God to stay within the city during this time and not be wherever it is I'm going, not be with me. And so, yeah, man, that's kind of where we're picking up.
But you know what else? Mm-hmm. Last week we spoke. We spoke a little more in depth on what's his name, Ahithophel.
Oh yes,
and Hushai. Right, mm-hmm. Two contrasting characters, and they was both in Absalom's ear because Absalom made it to a point where he was trying to pursue David, like on some, I'm trying to kill you so that I can be the king officially. And you can see Absalom is not the best tactician, and so he needs trusted people to advise him. Ahithophel came up with this plan. Ahithophel had other agendas. You can see Ahithophel wants to kill David. Like, it's a personal vendetta, because he was once David's advisor. Now he's become Absalom's advisor. And the plan is, let's get straight to the kill. Just give me the manpower. I will do it myself.
Exactly.
But Absalom chose the advice of Hushai, who was acting as a double agent. He was truly on David's side. And he gave Absalom some advice that sounded more logical, but they all knew that Absalom would not be able to succeed in this way. Ahithophel also knew that, and he knew that Absalom would fail, and Ahithophel would be killed once Absalom failed. So Ahithophel decided to kill himself. So that's
but first he did put his house in order.
Yeah. He did put his house in order.
He did not unalive himself without putting his house in order first.
Right.
So, anyone out there, don't kill yourself.
Grace of God.
Amen. So now in verse chapter 18, and also at the very end, chapter 17 too, we see David, those were in their time of trouble, essentially, on the Mount Olivet, heading down, and they were meeting with some friends who actually gave them food because naturally they had nothing. They left the city with nothing but the clothes on their back. So that's how verse chapter 17 ended off. And so now the reason why I really point that out too, because chapter 18 kind of like just starts right abruptly from how 17 ended. So verse 1, and David numbered the people who were with him and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them, which is so interesting too, because at first it made it seem like David didn't leave with that much people. But if you have like captains of thousands and hundreds,
yes,
a lot of people were still riding for David.
You got a squad.
You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of people were still riding for David. And this even make me think like, how much food did these friends of yours really bring? Because y'all feeding, legitimately, y'all are feeding an army.
Yes, and there's a variety of food that y'all bring.
Exactly. So that's very interesting. And David, verse 2, then David sent out 1/3 of the people under the hand of Joab. And we know Joab was one of David's nephews, who was a very good war general. 1/3 under the son of Abishai, also David's nephew, also a very good war general. And we know Abishai also wanted to kill King Saul when David didn't want to. Oh. Yes. So the sons of Zuriah, I butcher that from time to time, Joab's brother, and 1/3 under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said to the people, I also will surely go out with you myself.
But they wasn't going for that.
I mean, what would you have done in that circumstance? I mean, because like I could see David saying, man, I got y'all into this mess. It would be a shame if I, who is the main person Absalom really wants to kill at this point, like don't be out there at least leading y'all. Because I personally would feel bad y'all fighting this war on my behalf when it's my problem to be in this mess. No, I want to be out there leading the people. And we had known if he had been in the front leading the people, he might have prevent half of this stuff because he wouldn't have been in Jerusalem. He wouldn't have seen Bathsheba. He wouldn't have removed the hedge of protection from himself, as we talked about in the previous episodes. So again, it's like, bro, I already know. I already messed up the first time by not going to war with y'all. this was almost a no-brainer to me. Let me go. Sign me up, Captain.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way because, like you say, if he had been leading when they was fighting the Ammonites, the opportunity for him to fall the way he did would not have been there when he was out on the field. So I know I feel the same way. And I don't know what could you do in this scenario, because like, yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of kings, bro, they don't back down, bro. Like, we riding, you know what I'm saying? Especially if you feel like you could win this battle, bro. Like, I don't know how David feels. Like, I don't know if he's like truly concerned that their lives are in jeopardy or not, but he's doing the noble thing here by choosing to lead the charge.
I agree. But in verse 3, they say, the people answered, "You shall not go out, for if we flee, they will not care about us. Nor if half of us die, they will not care about us. But you are worth 10,000 of us now. For you now more help us in the city." And it's like, dang, I get it. And I could just see David. Forget David for a second. If this was me in the circumstance, I would feel like the inner turmoil. Because I get what you guys are saying, right? But at the same time, even as a king, like you would value your subjects in a certain. Like if he's a good king, we know David was a good king because you watch the movies and kings don't care.
It's just about them, really.
Exactly, they don't care. But we know David at least had a heart. Some would argue that, but he had a heart.
He had a heart.
He had a heart. So he's like, dang, like y'all don't want me to go out with y'all, but I understand it because the king is more valuable because, like, if they let's say, like, because if you think about it, if they do retreat, the king could lead the second army out against it, like in the retaliation. The king could still better plan from behind the scenes, get a date of what's happening. So it's like,
I agree with them though, because it's like, bro, you this would be a costly mistake on our behalf, right? Because like let's say we go out there and lose. I'd rather us lose when the king ain't around, because if we lose and the king dies, everything changes. But if we lose and the king is still alive,
there is hope.
There's hope. You understand what I'm saying? There's hope. And so, they basically saying, bro, you more of help to us, but you safe and sound, bro. You really, the state of the country is at hand, bro. Like, and if you
quite literally,
yeah, too costly for you to go out and battle and potentially die. It's better for you to stay here while we go test the waters.
Yeah, and so we see in verse 4, David said to them, "Whatever seems best to you, I will do." So the king stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by the hundreds and by the thousands. And even before I go on, right? To me, that still shows like humility and simultaneously good leadership as well. Because it's one thing to just, I'm the king, whatever I say goes. It's another thing to actually take advice and good counsel. Yeah. And humble yourself because you are the king. Like if David said he was going and he really wanted to go, but let's be honest, no one really could have stopped him. But he's saying, okay, you guys make a valid point. As much as I really want to go, I understand your argument and I will stay back. And swallowing your own pride is, again, something I also working on in different aspects of my life. Swallowing your own pride and being humble and being, okay, this is still a better course of action. And it still makes more sense for me to go this route. I actually really respect that. And we see this the second time we see David like swallowing his pride and his ego. Because the first time is when he actually wanted to build a temple. You know what I'm saying? And he had to take a back seat and was like, God was like, nope, you ain't doing that. That was even before Bathsheba. Like even if he was hoping God would come back around and say, yo, you might get billing.
Just in case. Yeah. But let me tell you this though.
Go for it.
Interesting you say that because David has been this humble guy the whole time. You understand what I'm saying? Like, whole time until the fall. Well, it's one other place time, but I don't think he was being too humble. And that's when he was trying to kill Nabal. Like, I don't think that was humble at all. Like, at all. Because a lot of people can take rejection or take disrespect better than David was planning to take this respect. But so overall, we have this humble guy he plays it by the books. He fears God. God is at the forefront of all of his decisions, right? And then we see where he gets the fame and the accolades, and he achieves great things because of God. And then he falls because of his own actions and because of his own pride and all of that stuff, right? Now, post-fall, family drama. But where we are, like specifically in the story, we see that David, instead of going to war with his son, instead of saying, all right, if we unmanned, I can get envoys from all these other cities. Because remember, David have people who is, right, from other, who was servants from other countries. Like we was just talking 2 episodes ago about the Gittite. That was only his first day. His first day on the job, he trying to fight. You could have hired envoys. You have way more resources than Absalom. Absalom only had the popular vote of Hebron or whatever city he was parked up at, being a judge towards. But you say, you know what? I could do these things the humble and clean way. I can get out so that we don't cause commotion, so that this blood got to be shed, and so that, because when David and so that, you know, just to keep the peace, when David was home in Israel, we see the descendant of Saul was following David. Well, someone from Saul's family following David, trying to harass him and throw rocks at him. You know what I'm saying? We see Ziba going rogue, trying to usurp Mephibosheth's riches. Check last episode and the episode before that, just to get a context of what we're talking about. So David did the humble thing by sacrificing his own luxury and his own comfortability and going in the wilderness again. This is the same thing when he was a shepherd boy. David run the first time from Saul, man, he had to run because he didn't have leverage. This time you have leverage, but you following the same pre-King David route, you understand? So he leave Israel, you know what I'm saying? He playing it cool, playing it chill. Like some kings could have been like, oh, that boy, after all I do for him, you know, and he could have let his anger event like get the best of him. But he decided, no, I'm not gonna do that. And also, let's return the Ark of the Covenant, because I'm not trying to be superstitious or anything like that. Like I'm just trusting in God to do this. And now, furthermore, David is being humble once again. You see what I'm saying? When it comes to the way they're gonna actually approach going to war, you know. So just all around, we can see a shift. Like we can see where David had too much dip on his chip before, and that's what led him to slip the way he transgressed. And now we can see that David, he ain't allowing himself to become too proud or arrogant to even be in that mess, bro. Like fully relying on God.
Yeah, I mean, because like when you think about it, there's always that time where you got to go back to basics. Like even sometimes I do this in my own life. Like, okay, if I really in a funk, at what point was I good? And then you examine that point and you're like, okay, what was I doing during that point? And then I'd be like, yo, I was the most humble person ever. I didn't have a big ego. I wasn't inflated. I was super close with God. I was trusting God for every whim and every move. Along the way, I started to get, kind of prideful, like, yo, I just finished conquering all these nations. Look at what I did. You know what I'm saying? Pride comes before the fall. So now we see David humbled himself, and then we pick up in verse 5. Now the king had commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, the 3 commanders that we read about in verse 2, saying, deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave the 3 captains orders concerning Absalom.
Wow.
Deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom. And man, I remember, like right before Paul, I was telling you, it's like the severity and the feelings behind that sentence right there. It's like, I can't fully grasp it yet because I don't have a child. You know what I'm saying? Because like we seen, this is some different kind of love. This is what Ahithophel was afraid of. Like Ahithophel was like saying like, yo, if I make Absalom do this thing, Absalom will still be beyond reproach. From David. But we seeing David saying, no matter what, bro, that's still my son. I still love him after everything he has done for me. You know what I'm saying?
This man has put me in a predicament where I cannot show him love, bro. Like, even if you was just trying to usurp the throne, okay, bro, hey, people who are royal, that happens. Ambition happens to a lot of people, whether you royal or not.
Mm-hmm.
But then Absalom, 2 chapters ago, or maybe last chapter, he went and slept with all of David's concubines.
Concubines,
right?
all of them.
In public, on top of like a building. Like,
Under a tent?
Under a tent for the town to see.
In the sight of the people. Mercy.
In the sight of the people. And, God prophesied about that, through Nathan. And that's one of them things where it's like, I doing this so you could know, bro, I am severing all ties from you. I want it to be as blatantly obvious as possible that we are at odds, right? And even after all of that, David is like, bro, that's my boy, that's my baby. Deal gently with my boy. You understand what I say? Like, David treating him like he's like this a phase. Like, like how teens just go through phases.
Exactly, bro. Like David sounded like he'd be the ones on the TV cast saying, "Not my one good son.
Not my good son. Not my good son. No boy." And you know what? Let me tell you something about that. My cousin, he just had a son last year. Son, a little over 1 now. And he was telling me how his life changed after having a son. You understand how overwhelming it was, like things that he didn't put stock in before that he wish he had been prepared for, all this stuff. And he realized how beautiful it is to bring a life into the world. And he reflected on something his mother had told him. And he said, this mother told him to cherish the time when your son is such an infant, so reliant on you. The time going to be quick. You understand? Children only be infants like 2 years, you know what I mean? Or a year, like toddler, adolescent, and teenager. Then it can come a time when they back talking you, when they don't want to listen to you. And like this whole time, you can't forget about how this little baby that used to wake me up in the middle of the night, but I love you so much that I care for you, right? And like, I can be real, it moved me, right? And he said to me, he then explained to me that his mother explained to him that the sentiment in the Bahamas, my good son, comes because parents, when they see their child, no matter how much of a menace that child is, they remember when that child was not a menace, bro. Like, it's hard for them to overlook the current or what the media says about them or the crimes that they have committed. It's hard for them to overlook the soft, loving child that they once had to be able to see what society sees. So in their mind, and this is a bias, this is a huge bias in their mind, you will always be my good son. I know you was a good boy, bro. You acting out, you doing these things, but that can't define you because people ain't see the whole you, bro. They only see the bad you, so they judge you as bad. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the people in the Bahamas who people to say, my good son, your good son have been doing very bad things. A lot of people have reasons to say your son is not a good boy. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm talking about murders, all type of bad stuff, right? But to that parent, because of the intimate connection that mother had with her child, that always could be her good son. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Like, go keep on going.
I don't have no children, bro, so I can't speak to this from a conviction state. But I feel like that's what David going through right now, bro. This is my good son, bro.
I think it's like I could see it, because I don't know, but like I don't know if your mommy ever tell you this, but I feel like every mommy saying like, no matter how old you get, you can always be my son.
Oh, for sure.
And it sounds so weird, but that's so true. I mean, like, man, I mean, it's recent news now, but like, like the Queen died of England, you know what I'm saying? And Charles, who was her son, just became king because he was next in line. But think about it, he's 73. But like, again, all these years, in 73 years, he was her son. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, my daddy, when they was here a couple of months ago, he was saying, because my grandma was also, he was saying like, as old as I am, that's my mother. I still got to respect. I still listen to her to this day. You know what I'm saying? Because no matter how old she get, no matter how old I get,
that's my mommy.
That's my mommy. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, man, like a mother, like the parental aspect of your, like looking over your kids. Granted, like I say, I ain't see this yet, but I can see it from different lenses coming down. Like, no matter what happens, it's like, yo, this is still my child. You know what I'm saying? We might have a rocky path. We might have a world of trouble in between us.
Yeah.
But man, we're really seeing David's heart again. Like, yo, deal gently with him for my sake. Like, I ain't even asking but y'all. Like, if y'all truly love me as a king right now, understand for my sake, I am begging you, don't kill him. Bring him back alive. And we see David didn't even tell this to the generals in private. He said this in front of everybody. All the people who were with them heard David said to the 3 captains, deal gently with him for my sake. So you let him say, no, this ain't no private thing. Everybody knows, even y'all who I ain't giving the direct orders to, y'all know if y'all see him face, don't do nothing with him. Because I tell y'all captains to spare him. So don't take it upon yourself thinking you're a hero. For my sake, spare Absalom. Let me deal with him. And we know David, and this point is like going to be like, I can let God deal with you.
Yeah. David has not had a good track record of disciplining his sons who've committed crimes over the past few stories. But no, it is very touching. Bro, I kid you not. I'm reading this and I just like, man, that's crazy because he essentially asking them for a favor.
A big favor.
Bro, I'm not telling you to have mercy on this young man because he deserves it, because of anything else. Because I can't. There's nothing I could say to make you have mercy on him. But I'm asking you, for my sake, to be gentle with this young man. And in my interpretation, gentle means not dying.
Yeah, like spare him. Like that's literally what he's trying to say. And even then, man, like if you think about like the relation to like Christ covering us in front of God the Father type thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, they deserve to die. You know what I'm saying? But for my sake, they had faith in me, they believed in me, we had a relationship, spare them. You know what I'm saying? Do they deserve death by law? Yes. The wages of sin is death.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So do they deserve to die? Yes. But for my sake, spare them. You know what I'm saying? Like that's so that's remarkable, man. Yeah. So we see in verse 6, so the people went out into the field of the battle against Israel, and the battle was in the woods of Ephraim. A lot of things just go down in Ephraim,
Yeah, I was just thinking that. and I was thinking we ain't hear Ephraim in a while for real. Like, you know what I mean?
Like, but a lot of things happen in Ephraim. Like,
I never had nothing happen in Benjamin. Well, that one thing in Judges when the Benjamites.
Yeah.
Anyway, we ain't gotta get into that.
Say the word, man.
Yeah, no. It's just some tribes that don't really get no shine. Like what is happening? Issachar and Naphtali
and Dan.
And Dan. I feel like I hear Dan more than Issachar.
That's
what I mean?
That's a fuck. That's a big fuck. Yeah. So, verse 7, the people of Israel were overthrown there before the servants of David, and a great slaughter of 20,000 took place that day. Just let that sink in.
Woo!
Let that sink in. And this is what David didn't want to happen in the capital city. Because I think, well, honestly, deep down, David knew, I have the superior numbers right now. I have the army on my side. You know what I'm saying?
I have the experience. Like, come on, bro. Like I defeat people who hate us, bro. We as brothers, bro, so we can be some resistance in fighting, bro. I deal with people who's worship idols, all type of things, bro. Like
giants.
Come on, bro. Like
exactly. And so 20,000 got slaughtered there that day. For the battle, there was scattered over the face of the whole countryside, and the woods devoured more people that day than the sword ever devoured. Dang.
Wow.
The landscape take them out. So in verse 9, then Absalom met the servants of David. Absalom rode on a mule. The mule went under a thick boughs of a great terebinth tree, and his head got caught in the terebinth, so he was left hanging between heaven and earth. And the mule which was under him went on.
Man. But first of all, I was a little confused about this when it says, then Absalom met the servants of David. So, like, was he leaving a meeting?
I just didn't catch up with him. Like,
they say Absalom met them.
Yeah, I think he probably right. Like, when you're trying to escape and you turn to the wrong corner, you see this in movies all the time. You seen things happening over there. You trying to make your escape, and like the antagonist run into the protagonist through like a back alley. Somebody like, oh, didn't mean to see you here.
Yeah, but that long hair, bro. I think maybe he should have considered cutting it more often than once a year.
My thing is, again, you brought this point up before, Paul, right? But like, why you want to move? Why not a horse? Why not something a little bit faster? I don't really particularly see mules as fast animals.
Yeah.
Like donkeys just trot along. Like they slow and steady and they reliable means of transportation, right? But in times of trouble, why are you trying to ride in on a mule, bro?
They ain't built for action.
You should be on a horse, a big horse.
Yeah, bro. Like, but you know what? Because the Bible specifically says, and his head caught in the terebinth.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought it was his hair.
We always has his hair, but I would have to believe it's his hair because that's the only way it could get really caught in a tree.
I could see your head getting. I could see with certain impact between two branches, like two limbs, because the donkey just moving and he ain't really considering nothing for real, and you wasn't paying attention, and your head don't get jammed somewhere.
But my thing is, again, I'm gonna be getting a little too into the weeds, right? But I'm like, if you want a donkey and you're riding, you should be able to like avoid the branches with your head. So I can see you have these long flowing hair behind you and something get caught in a branch. You just like, and it pulls you back and the donkey just keep on going because the donkey ain't got much sense. Sorry for anyone who loves donkeys.
I mean, that's the most logical thing, bro. That's what I thought too. You understand? But I just being a little semantic.
I get you.
Yeah.
Because it specifically says head here, but I mean,
and obviously your hair is a part of your head, you know what I'm saying? But they didn't specifically say hair, but it makes more sense because they pointed out how long the man hair was. You feel me? And then truthfully.
Exactly. Go for it.
But then truthfully, bro, it's like, bro, like, were you not even looking for your hair to get stuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think it's more likely that your hair will get caught in something, especially if it was up.
I think it's actually kind of like strangely fitting that it was his hair that caused him to be in this predicament because it was a part of his pride. Because we know if we go back to 2 Samuel, I think it was 14. Go back to 2 Samuel 14 and talk about how good his looks was, how luxurious his hair was, how he had to cut his hair once a year, not because of anything else, just because it got too heavy for his head. So we know that his hair, how I read it, Earl Roberts reading it now, like that was part of his vanity. Mm-hmm. So something that you held so precious to you end up being one of the reasons you led to your downfall because it led you on this path. You thinking you look so good and was not. Go for it.
You know how embarrassing it is to die like that? Anyway, I jump in the gun. But let me tell you, I just think it was something else though.
Go for it.
You know why it really could be his head though? Mm-hmm. Because if your hair get captured, it's easier for you to get out of that than if your head was stuck. You see what I'm saying? Because you need leverage to remove your head from that, right? Because think about it, right? If you was riding on a donkey, your body would not be that much elevated because donkeys ain't that tall. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So you hanging and you probably like 2-3 feet off the ground. And if that like 3 more feet, and you probably could touch the ground, bro. Mm-hmm. But you just stuck. You know what I mean? So I think maybe what could have happened is that he ride on this donkey, the donkey picking up speed, you know, donkey's a little wild. Mm-hmm. He look and see the servants of David, so he wasn't paying attention, and then the donkey ended up running him into something that get his head, it's like his physical head jump into it. And I was like, I don't even got the leverage to really get my head out of this predicament. You see what I'm saying? Like his physical head, you know? And then that would still align with your point because the man was handsome, right? He had no blemish. You see what I'm saying? So this pretty little head of yours, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's stuck in a tree, you know?
Good point. I take it under consideration.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. Because when we go, I just explain why I feel this way as we get more into it.
Mm-hmm. So,
but it is embarrassing. It is embarrassing to just be hanging. You know what I mean, bro? Like it's like imagine if. All right, so that's the reason why David didn't come at the bottom, and so you could see the difference in what's the word? Tacticians. I don't know. In tactics, right? David and his men say, bro, it's wiser for you to stay put, no matter because we don't know how this can go. But Absalom will ride with his men. You see what I'm saying? Now, granted, this probably Absalom first hurrah, so we got to do it big and, we got to make it look good. But now you end up hanging from a tree. You know who ain't hanging from a tree? David. Because David stay home. You see what I'm saying? But anyway.
It's just weird to get your hair caught, however it is. Because I'm like, why you running? Why you going under the tree? Duck down. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's
I
like
wish I could see this, bro.
And it's like to get stuck. Like that's what get me too. Like it ain't like you just there and it break the branch or the donkey leave. You fall off donkey and like they surround you. Like no, you physically got stuck there. I just imagine someone like, oh, I can't get out. Oh, I'm stuck. Like how you get in this predicament?
Like you don't hear about stuff like this. Like you just hear like if the Bible say, all right, like you see when what his name is oh man. The dude, the upper millstone fell on his head in Gideon's son.
I know what you mean. I can't remember his name right now too.
So now, with him, you can always say, all right, he died a very uncommon way. Something fall on his head and he died. But guess what? Stuff like that is happening in life. It ain't not common, but construction site, something fall on your head, X, Y, Z. Somebody from, like you watching these movies, they in a fortified they're on the wall and they throw something down or they arrows. You see what I saying? Remember David just was saying that. David was like, bro, why y'all get so close to the wall? That's when so much men died when they was fighting the Ammonites. He's like, why y'all get so close to the wall? Like, bro, it is, I do not hear about people hanging, getting their head caught in the tree, bro. Like,
exactly.
Like of all the ways this battle could have gone, getting your head caught on the tree was not on my bingo card for today.
Man, spot up bingo. I play bingo forever. Oh, and the person we was talking about in Judges was Abimelech.
But we always just forget that name. Every time we mention him, we can't remember his name, bro.
It's a couple of Abimelechs, though. That's what's getting me, too.
And that's why I feel like I should remember his name. It's a common name. This name come up a couple of times. Like Ahithophel. I don't know how I remember that name, but that's the only person I know in the Bible who named that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay, so now we were, okay, I don't know why I made that noise. Okay, so now Joab told him, okay, now a certain man in verse 10. Now a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, I just saw Absalom hanging under the tree. I could imagine this person saying, okay, I could kill you, but I ain't going to be the one responsible for killing the king's son. I already see the king say, this man should be returned alive. So I can do the honorable thing. Joab, we found him. Now what you do with this information? It's between you and him. We have found him. He over there. His head's wedged in between these branches pretty good. He ain't escaping. And this has to be a really strong tree too, because I'm like...
That's what I trying to show you, bro. They got time to... Now granted, this ain't that much time because they all on the field and you just got to go find someone. That might not take you that long, but you see it. You going straight to the general, y'all at this convo. You see they saying the general gotta come back, and all this time, let's say in the world that it was your hair, right? Now, my thing is, bro, cut off your hair, tear something, wiggle your hair enough to tell it ain't caught, but I can still see you getting caught by the hair and you can't get out of that. You feel me? Like I can still see that happening if you don't have like a blade on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it's head, you definitely you go on, bro. Like ain't nothing you can do but that. You know, if it's your head, like head. But anywho.
So in verse 11, we see Joab said to the man, you just saw him and you did not strike him there to the ground? I would have given you 10 shekels of silver and a belt. So now we seeing something interesting. We seeing Joab saying, bro, I don't care
what David say.
What the king say. We are in this trouble because of this man. The country is in turmoil because of this man. I will off him. Why did you not take this upon yourself? And so the funny thing about it is, I can't blame the other like regular soldier.
He do the right thing. He do what he was commanded to do.
Not my burden to bear.
All right. But watch this, right? Joab is the type of person who his interests go before everybody else's interests. He didn't kill Saul because that was truly David's interest. You understand what I'm saying? If you give me the word, I'll kill Saul. You see what I'm saying? But you tell me don't do it? All right, cool. When it comes to killing Abner, he ain't even consult David or not. He just going to kill because Abner killed his brother. You feel me? And so, like, we can see that's how Joab is, bro. Joab, I can imagine when David was saying, when he speak to Joab, Ittai, and whoever else, Abishai, he was like, yo, deal gently with my son. And Joab was like, you can't be talking to me. I ain't dealing gently. No one. You see
Exactly.
He already had that in his head. So now it come to the point where the king say, don't do this thing. But the commander talking to one of his subordinates and saying, bro, what you mean you saw him? You ain't kill him? You can see a payday today, bro.
Exactly. And like even for like people out there, like the belt back in those days, the military belt was like such a high prized possession. So it was like really just saying to someone, oh yeah, I had to give you like a military belt. Like that was like a rich payday, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
and then
go for it.
10 shekels of silver, right? Joseph gets sold for 20 shekels of silver. So that's half the price of a human being, bro. You understand what I say? Like for real, bro. Like
you want to go on for inflation?
Right. No, see if it was inflation, then that's like whatever. And it would have been plenty of inflation because this was hundreds of years after. You know what I mean? But I don't know how much inflation used to really factor in them days because it wasn't really too capitalistic. Well, it was to an extent.
It was a little bit different because I mean it wasn't even like backed by gold. The currency was gold and silver.
Right.
So
exactly.
Literally, however fast we could mine it, which ain't that fast. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got that much resources and tools. So it was kind of under control. That's why you had servants.
And then guess what? Jesus got sold for 40 pieces of silver. You see what I'm saying? So it might have doubled by then. You see what I'm saying? That might have been.
But we talking about like 1,000 years later. So
right,
that's still ain't
1,000 years after this. Like,
you know what I'm saying? That still ain't bad. So now we see, but the man said to Joab, though I were to receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing, the king commanded you, Abishai and Ittai, saying, beware lest anyone touch the young man Absalom. Otherwise, I would have dealt falsely against my own life, for there is nothing hidden from the king. And you yourself would have set yourself against me. So we see he's smart. He's saying, hold on. Because we hear you say, we hear the king tell y'all, don't touch him. 1,000 shekels of silver wasn't going to get me to touch him. Because guess what? Even if I did do it, right? One, I loyal to David. But even if I did do it, you yourself would have turned against me because I would have been the scapegoat.
Exactly.
Your hands would have been clean. You would have no worries in the world. You'd have been, I could imagine Job too. Didn't the king tell you leave him alone?
Even though he was happy?
Even though we happy.
Yeah.
Even though we happy.
Jesus was sold for 30 pieces of silver, by the way. Just wanted to correct that.
All right.
Yeah.
So now in verse 14, then Job said, I cannot linger with you. Excuse me. And he took all 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through Absalom's heart while he was alive in the midst of the terebinth tree. And 10 young men who bore Joab's armor surrounded Absalom, and they struck and killed him. So Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing Israel, for Joab held back the people. And they took Absalom and cast him into a large pit in the woods, and they laid a very large heap of stones over him. Then all Israel fled, everyone to his tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up a pillar for himself, which is in the king's valley. For he said, I have no son to keep my name in my remembrance. He called the pillar after his own name, and to this day it is called Absalom's monument.
But okay, well, let's go one at a time. Joab was like, all right, I ain't got time to sit there and slap up with you all day. This man might get free while we are talking. I about to go and deal with that. You see what I'm saying? So 3 spears, and that was murder she wrote. And then Joab has 10 armor bearers, by the way.
Yeah, that's a lot. I was thinking that too.
That is crazy. And yeah, they actually did the rest of the fatal blows or whatever. And so Joab, I know, you think he was still salty about when Absalom burned down his barley field?
He might have been, but it's so weird, right? Because again, so now we know Joab is really and truly David's right-hand man, right? And so we have this weird like irony playing out here, because one could argue what Joab did was correct, but it wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? And I know you have a point. Sometimes we say it's one thing to be right, but it's the next thing to be righteous, right? Because here's the thing: when you're looking out for you, like Joab, no one within himself, bro, David is not going to reprimand this guy. And because it's the funny thing about it, it was Joab who fought for Absalom to come back.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Absalom burned down his fields to get an audience with the king, and then all this stuff unfolds. So now Joab saying, bro, it's better for David and for Israel if I kill you. David wants you alive, and I understand that, but it's better for Israel and David if I kill you, because David can't see that.
And that's true.
That's the wild part about it. So Absalom saying, you know what, it's better. These things are better. I need to put an end to this. I'm going to take it upon myself. I mean, and I ain't here to shoot Absalom praise. The man was a murderer, a traitor, a rapist, a usurper, all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, did Absalom deserve it? Yes. Did Joab have justifiable reasons to do it? Yes. But now it's like, was it still right to do this? Stocking up all these evidence, was it still right? And it's hard to say that it's still right to do it because the king himself asked you not to do it. You know how much this meant to him.
Yes.
And it's like that weird dichotomy, like, man, do I do what's best for my best friend, even though it's going to hurt? Or do I let my best friend like suffer through this because that's what they want to do?
Yeah, and so my thing is, like, you could have really just imprisoned Absalom. You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's different ways around it. But what is true is that right now, I can't really say what is the right or the righteous way. I don't trust Joab to be the righteous person.
No, definitely
in circumstance.
Not.
One time, he shocked me. And that was when he gone and sent that woman over to tell David to bring his son back. You remember, like, I think it was chapter 14.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, and like, just even the way he gone about it, he do it quick, you know what I mean? He ain't consult David, you know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, y'all could have bring the man back. Like, there was nothing stopping y'all from capturing him. Like, nothing at all. You feel me? It was 11 of y'all. You're 10 armor bearers plus you. Y'all could have cut that tree down. You see they saying, grab him, tie him up, and then bring him back. You see they saying, but in the back of his head, he just thinking, right? Either David he ain't gonna do nothing, or David could just ignore you. But you deserve to die, bro, like just straight up. And so Joab take that upon himself, What's also interesting to me, though, is that when we was in 2 Samuel chapter 14, verse 27, it say, to Absalom were born 3 sons and 1 daughter whose name was Tamar.
Mm-hmm.
You remember, and we talked about that because we was like, his daughter named after his sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, when we fast forward to chapter 18, verse 18, to say, Absalom himself had said at some point in time, I have no sons to keep my name in remembrance,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My speculation on that is that when he made this monument, he didn't have a son. You know what I'm saying? Either that or maybe his son's passed away.
I would assume they probably just died at this point. Like, you don't know, like, and even if even during this time, we never even talk about his family for real.
Mm-hmm.
So they might already passed away, unfortunately, but that's just what it seems. Go for it.
No, go on.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's just so interesting too. Like Absalom, who was so prideful, now he's swinging in a tree helpless and gets taken out by Joab, who like fought for you even to come back.
Who feel you burn down for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
You burn down the man field, bro. you was being a brat. You feel me? Like,
yeah, a big one.
Man, it's just so sad though. It's just so sad, bro. The man went rogue. And my thing is, David added a little bit of fuel to this man going rogue. This pent up aggression. I'm mad because you banish me when you ain't banish the next one who do all these crazy things. I'm mad that you ain't do nothing to avenge our sister. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm mad that even when you bring me back, you just got me sitting here. Like, all of these things cause him to resent his father. You feel me? All of these things, bro. But then David, he saw his one good son, and he was just like, not one good son, but he saw his good son, and he was just like, bro, I understand why you acting out, bro. You know what I mean? I understand how you feel. You know what I'm saying? And David wants to correct this, but it's sad because he don't have the opportunity to. And truthfully, you never know. David could have shown him all of the love and compassion, and the man could have still tried to kill David at another time.
He was a patient one who used to wait his time.
To wait. He'll wait years. He'll wait 2 years just to tell your guards down. And then he making his mark. And that might have been why he was frustrated with David too, because David ain't giving him no opportunity to get to him. He had no access to David, so it wasn't even no matter of getting your guards down. You can't get to me, you know? But yeah, bro, what a way to go.
What a way.
Absalom.
So now in verse 19, then Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, who was like one of the priests, let me now run and take news to the king how the Lord has avenged him of his enemies. So Joab said to him, you shall not take that news this day, for you shall take the news another day. But today you shall take no news because the king's son is dead. Joab saying, whoa there, buddy. Not today.
Not today.
Not today. In a TV show, somebody be like, my word, have some dignity, man. He just lost his son.
Real.
Oh, man.
Today, bro. We can let this cool down a little bit. Let the smoke clear a little bit.
Then Joab said to the Cushite, go tell the king what you have seen. So the Cushite bowed himself to Joab and ran. And Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, said to Joab again, but whatever happens, please let me also run after the Cushite. So Joab said, why will you run, my son, since you have no news ready? Joab up to something now. But he said, but whatever happens, let me run. So he said to him, run. Like I can imagine, fine, go. So then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and outran the Cushite. Powerful. Man. Boy, he was a runner.
Yeah.
Now David was sitting between the two gates. And it's so interesting. Now we see David just where they left him. He was still there just waiting to hear back on word from his people. Like, did you guys win? Really and truly, how is my son? Is he alive?
That's what he really wanted, though.
Exactly.
And how is the young man?
Exactly. So, and the watchman went out and up to the roof of the gate to the wall, lifted his eyes and looked, and there was a man running alone. The watchman cried out and told the king, and the king said, if he's alone, there is news in his mouth. And he came rapidly and drew near. Then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gatekeeper and said, there's another man running alone. And the king said, he also bring news. So the watchman said, I think the one running of the first is like running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. So the king said, he's a good man. He comes with good news.
Oh man. And they can remember you're running on. He's run like a Ahimaaz.
So Ahimaaz called up to the king, saying, all is well. Then he bowed down his face to the earth before the king and said, blessed be the Lord your God, who has delivered up the men who raised their hands against my lord the king. And the king said, is the young man Absalom safe? And Ahimaaz answered, when Joab sent the king's servant and sent me your servant, I saw a great tumult, but I do not know what that is about. Honestly, too, partially, I think Joab was trying to spare Zadok. Like, bro, you don't even have the full story. Yeah. And I don't want you, who in such good standing with David, to be the one to break this news to him either.
I rather the Cushite.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I think, right?
Go for it.
I think everybody know Absalom dead, right? And Joab killed Absalom, right? But I think Joab was trying to make it so that he don't appear that he hiding the fact that Absalom is dead. So he said, yeah, tell the Cushite, go and tell David, Absalom dead, right? Cool. So to everybody, it looked like, all right, I being honest and I showing integrity and I giving David all the news. And then he sent the fast person later and say, bro, you go. Because he knew Zadok was Ahimaaz was gonna come first, you said I saying, and give David a light blow. You understand what I'm saying? And then to your point, the Cushite, you said they saying gonna come
to lay it all out.
Right. You said they said.
So we see David turn to to him and say, turn aside and stand there. So he turned aside and stood still. Just then the Cushite came, and the Cushite said, there's good news, my lord, the king. For the Lord has avenged you this day of all those who rose against you.
Wow.
And David said to the Cushite, is the young man Absalom safe? It's like deep down David say, bro, I know y'all was going to win the battle. That part, I don't care about. Think that handle itself.
I don't care about that at all, bro. Like, yeah, like, where's my son, bro? The only thing I say, bro, the only instruction I give you all, bro, that's what I want to know about.
Exactly. So the Cushite answered, may the enemies of my lord, the king, all who rose against you to do you harm, be like that young man.
Wow. He don't even know. The Cushite probably wasn't aware of the command, bro.
Which is so interesting too, because he's saying it's like, this is a good thing, bro. Him, the leader of the army, he dead.
Showing you. Because like remember when Joab and David saw laying down asleep, he said, bro, the Lord give you your enemies, give the enemies into your hand this day. You understand what I'm saying? This the day you can kill them, right? And they was like, no, I ain't touching the Lord's anointed. But you can see Joab them didn't know no better. Because they think, all right, you can sneak and kill Saul. This is for those who don't know, this is in 1 Samuel. Mm-hmm. You can sneak and kill this man, you feel me? And this God giving you this, right? But they were like, but this ain't God. This God tested me, if anything. We said, they saying, because I am not sanctioned to touch his anointed. Joab them didn't know no better. The Cushite coming with the same thing. The Lord has avenged you this day. You know what I mean? Like, they see this as an ark of God, like as a blessing, you know? But if you was around to know the command that David gave in front of everyone, you would not even want to give this. You wouldn't give this. You wouldn't give this news in this way. Not at all.
Mm-hmm. Man, and so we see, in verse 33, the king was so deeply moved, and he went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. And as he went, he said thus, "O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died in your place, O Absalom, my son." And just even like for even more imagery, when in the context there, when they said was deeply moved, you go back and read, I guess it was the Hebrew and the words that were used there was essentially saying that he was so literally, he was shaking. He was so like stricken with grief that he was physically shaking. Like that's how much it rocked him. It wasn't like that. That's that deep sorrow, that deep anguish when you really lost a loved one and you don't even know how to comprehend what to do, how to process this information. But the wild part about it is when you go back to 2 Samuel chapter 12, and we see the promise or the prophecy that Nathan said. It said, the sword shall never depart from your house because you have despised me, and you have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. I will rise up adversity against you from your own house. And I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with all your wives in the sight of the sun. And that was 10 and 11. And it went on, but we kind of see, do you have it up?
Yeah, I have it up.
All right. You want to read verse 12?
Yeah. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel, before the sun. And then David said, all right, so I actually, you remember your point though.
Yeah, keep going.
Right, because remember with that story, they started to say that Nathan spoke in like a metaphoric story about this guy who had lambs, and he stole a lamb from his neighbor who was poor. You understand what I'm saying? So verse 5 of 2 Samuel 12, it said, David's anger was greatly aroused against the man, and he said to Nathan, as the Lord lives, the man who has done this shall surely die, and he shall restore fourfold. Right?
Yep, that's the part I was trying to get at too. Yeah, keep going.
Fourfold for the lamb, because he did this thing and because he had no pity, right? Interesting. And so David is a judge, right? You know, if we think of historic Jerusalem, before they had kings, they had people who oversaw and people who are leaders, and then people who were they were chiefs of justice, and Absalom was trying to do that couple chapters back, right? But David was a judge, and so David, in his wisdom, he pronounced judgment on this person that stole a lamb. He said he will pay fourfold, but on top of that, he will surely die. Interesting. So that's the punishment that David said. So let me go to verse 13. So just fast forward now, because remember I said we just talk about how his wives would be taken secretly. His wife would be taken openly, right? Verse 13, it says, so David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, the Lord also has put away your sin. You shall not die. It was a twofold curse that David pronounced on this man in this allegory, in this metaphor. And David, he was talking about himself and he didn't even know. He said, this man, he will surely die and he will pay fourfold. Nathan turns around and say, you will not die.
You will not die, yep.
You will not die. You understand? So it's still the price of the fourfold payment. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know if you wanted to continue on that.
No, I mean, like, again, I was going to take it a different point slightly, right? But I'm like, when you look at it, this even like a lesson to myself, like, it's not one thing to just teach your children to be like godly, but it's like how training them up in the way they should go part of it too. Like, I can teach them what godliness is. Because I mean, think about David. Absalom was there watching David grow up. You know what I'm saying? David might have had interaction with him. I assume David might have been a decent father. He might have been a father who did too much, not want to discipline their children. But Absalom, essentially, I mean, it's nothing about Absalom's even makes it seem like he remotely like followed God, like how David did. As something to actually like teach your children actually have that connection with God. Now they're gonna have their own connection with God, but it's like actually training them like how to, like what to do. So when you get old, they don't depart from it. It's not saying that they're not gonna like fall astray, but they're gonna have like the lighthouse, like guiding light back to what feels right and what knows right. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to just say, oh yeah, I do this, my children are gonna be straight, but it's like, are you actually teaching your children on what they should be doing? You know what I'm saying? It's like looking back and like how I grew up, I actually could personally like my parents, you know what I'm saying? Like teaching me how to pray, make sure I pray before I go to bed at night. No, when you're a kid, you're like, all right, cool. Like, I don't really want to do this, but
they're just doing it, really.
You know what I'm saying? Just doing it to do it. But it's like looking back and like, I appreciate that, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of things like that we take for granted. Like, and coming from Christian backgrounds, we take that for granted, man. But yeah, and now we see David. This is what, the third son he's lost.
Right. So,
he lost the baby.
4-4. Right.
Yeah.
The baby.
Yeah. He lost Amnon. He lost Absalom.
So
Tamar got destroyed, and not like, you know what I'm saying? Like she got
right. But
her innocence got taken away.
Right. So David takes somebody's life, right? And he would pay 4-4, right? The life of his youngest, the life of his oldest. And the life of his third son. That's 3-4. He already got paid. He already got repaid. And so as the story progressed, we can see where David's fourth lamb, you know what I'm saying, will be taken away from him. But it's crazy, bro. Like this, like the nerdy Bible stuff now. Like at this point, because I wouldn't even factor in that. Wow, 4 of David's sons got killed in the story. Like got killed, bro, not like died. Like because obviously they all passed away now, but 4 of them, their lives was taken away. Like the baby, obviously, you know, plague, like he got ill and died, but the other 2 was murdered, and then the last one we can get into it.
We're gonna get into it eventually, but yeah. I mean, this shows that like, yo, God's word never returns void. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's prophecy has to be fulfilled, and straight up to the point where we see like God said, "Yo, I'm gonna take your wives to be taken away from you because you took away Uriah's wife." We see his son went down steps with all his concubines in the sight of all of Israel. You know what I'm saying?
And that wasn't, you know, sometimes God speaks and it's like he's speaking poetically or metaphorically, right? No, this was literally, like when they say in the sight of, when I read he would do this in the sight of all Israel, I read that as saying that everyone will know about it. Everyone will know. Be no secret. But no, God was saying, no, he literally is going to do this in the sight of all Israel. You know
literally under the sun, bro.
Yes.
In the sight of the sun, bro, like literally, like.
So wild, bro. Like, you know, sometimes I want to do this and sometimes I don't want to do this. Episodes like this, I really don't want to do this, but I really would like to have like a cartoon of the Bible or even a live action like show of the Bible, like drama, all of that. And like I'm not gonna dramatize it so it's like super juicy and gossipy, but I can really just I wish like by the grace of God for us, like you know what I'm saying, one day we can actually bring to life the words written in the Bible, bro.
Exactly.
And this is a little graphic, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, we can show this on screen, but for people to get the full gist of this story, bro, you see this and you're just like, bro, this wasn't no right. You hated your father, bro. You wanted to inflict pain on your father, but you had a hatred for your father to do these things.
You know, the funny thing about it, like stories like this that are in the Bible are so much juicier than stuff we actually watch on TV if they're actually made live action. Because this is like an epic plot line. Because think about it, you can just see it now, bro. This son scheming behind the scenes for years, bro, doing what you gotta do, acting like everything cool. You know what I'm saying? We know what happened between like this is like multiple seasons, bro. Season 1. Oh, this brother's trying to scheme, trying to get sister, you know what I'm saying? Finally does the deed, kick it to the curb. Second brother, mad, furious, sister lives in with her. Acting like everything cool, still has his elaborate plot to kill him. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, all this stuff now, you finally get raised to power. Season 6, you raise the power, you're reigning over Israel. Your father out in isolation. You're like, oh, I'm the king in charge, doing whatever. Bro,
bro, you could make, you know, and just thinking about it, I remember hearing somebody say that in college, bro. Like they say, because this was shortly after when the Noah movie, quote unquote, you know, I never watched it, so I don't
that was foolishness.
Yeah, I believe it was, but I never watched it. And he was saying this dude was saying if he had a bag and he was able to produce a movie on the Bible, it would be David. You understand what I'm saying? Like it would be David, bro. And I'm just like, bro, in terms of action, and you have a protagonist that wins battles, it don't get no better than David.
And then also to like one constant story arc. I know we're on a tangent, so we could probably switch gears, right? Yeah. But like, just think about like one constant story arc going through. But yeah, super tangent. Sorry, guys. But yeah, man. Overall thoughts on this chapter.
Man, you know, father's love. You know, we can parallel it in multiple ways, but there's so much parallels to, you know, the way our Heavenly Father loves us, right? I just want to focus on David's humility, you know what I'm saying? Like, because David, you know, you could tell the man really loved his son. Facts. And I do look at it the way, you know, a parent or someone who has a greater level of understanding loves people. So you might have a child who being no manners or being unmannerly, you know, as the proper term to say, like they might be unmannerly, but you know that this child really just don't know how to handle his or her feelings right now. This child really going through hormonal changes, and that's why they acting out. They lack self-control in this way, and they have not overcome, you know, how to handle these problems yet. And so you ain't gonna turn around and spite them back, right? You know, like I remember one time I had a cousin. This dude was going through it. Like life really was beating him down. I didn't know. He had came over to our house, and you know, he just was being a lot. You know what I'm saying? And I ended up getting really frustrated, and I exploded on him before that weekend ended. You know what I'm saying? And when I did it, like I was expecting a rumble or something, you know, but you know, he backed down. You know, and I was just like, bro, you giving me so much negative energy. I thought you really had a problem with me, you know? Yeah, when he left, I replayed everything. And I realized this was a cry for help the whole time. And that really eat me up inside. I was like, bro, why did I not have grace and mercy for him? You know? And I resolved to thinking, because I didn't know he was going through it. And I'm just like, but why I have to know he going through it for me to have grace and mercy to him? Like, because my grace and mercy is conditional. You feel me? And because I love my cuz, I would, but if I could go back in time and knowing that he was going through it, I would not treat him like that. I would treat him with love, bro. I'd be patient with him. David know that there's reasons why his son was acting this way. And David don't share them same reasons, bro. I don't hate you. You ain't do nothing to me for me to hate you. I mean, You did sleep with my wives, but at the end of the day, God tell me that was gonna happen. You understand? I can only be mad at myself. This would have never happened if I didn't open up the door for that to happen.
Mercy.
You know what I mean?
Mercy.
And so ultimately, David is showing a type of love where it's like, bro, I understand what you're going through, bro. Like, because I understand that you can't handle what you're feeling right now, and I am going to be the bigger man and show you love, bro. And I feel like that's what love is. You know, if you truly understand, like, if you truly understand, you'll be able to look beyond people's faults and they shortcomings and they outbursts. And you would have to, and you would be able to factor in that if this person really knew how to love properly, they would not treat me this way. Because they don't know, they rely on, they choose in this form to react to me or something, you know?
Yeah, man, like that's really good. That's a really good point. Like, honestly, it's like kind of like I have the same point. Like, it's kind of hard to fathom what it is for a child. I mean, for a parent, like the parent's love for the child, and it's like a microcosm into what God the Father had to feel, because something that we felt that was unforgivable, unreproachable, David said, by not saying it, but by showing it, bro, that means nothing to me. There's nothing you could do to stop me from loving you because you are my child. And it's a mind-blowing, unfathomable concept. Because I think about myself, I'm like, yo, I'm a sinner who, as much as, you know, wants to stop sinning, wish I could stop sinning. As Paul says, the things I find myself doing, the things I want to do, I find myself not doing. The things I find myself doing is, you know, the things I don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? And like thinking about it, like, yo, I'm a sinner, but like God saying, like, I still love you, my son. There's still a hope for you where the world sees future, like a failure. I see a success for you. I see a future for you. And man, it's just mind-boggling, like the Father's love. Not only to sacrifice his only begotten son, which is a whole different thing in itself, but for our sake, so that we could have love. We could experience that love. We could experience that peace. We could experience that joy. We could experience what it is to live like in his presence, what he truly intended for us. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. But like, definitely want to encourage everyone out there to like, man, like, choose God. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, it's definitely a love that I wish we all could experience one day, because even if you have a kid, I still don't think you can fully grasp. Granted, again, I have no kids, but it's definitely something to think about and something to just grasp, because like that's what God does for us each and every day. Like, still forgiving us, still loving us, still hoping that, you know, we still choose him. Even when we don't choose him, that hurts. But guess what, buddy? I'm still here to love you again. So, yeah, man, that's powerful.
Yeah, I think just the love aspect of it is like God. I feel like God, like, he ain't affected in the way we get affected by things, because he's perfect. He is sinless, right? Like our sin gets in the way of our love so much times. But right now we can see how people react when they truly love somebody. David loved his son, right? This is enemy, but it just so happens to also be his son. But I love you, bro. I showing you what it's like to love your enemies. You know, Jesus talked about do good to those who persecute you, you know, love your enemies and stuff like that. This is where we can see it, bro. Me and you might get into an altercation. Or no, I ain't even gonna say that. Two people might get into an altercation. Two friends might get into an altercation, and they might say some really nasty things, right, to each other during this altercation. But if one of those friends was to pass away that night, you would cry and you would be like, bro, I didn't mean that. I wish I never said that, bro, X, Y, Z. Because, bro, sometimes we don't show love to each other, but we can love somebody and still treat them as if we don't love them. You see what I say? Like, but it's like, bro, right now we get to see how David had every reason to treat someone like he didn't love them, but he treated them with love. You feel me? And bro, this from a human perspective, bro, it's a lot, bro. Like, this really, like, I agree, bro. This really powerful, because why does this affect you so much, bro? Why, or rather, why didn't this affect you that much? Why didn't the fact that your son was trying to kill you Your son was trying to destroy you, bro, destroy your reputation. He walk around letting people know that he was a better judge than you. He taking your woman. He taking your position. Like
he kingdom, bro. He taking your whole country.
He's coming for every single thing, bro. But you still mourning over him. You understand? But you still want them to deal gently with him. You feel me? Because at the end of the day, even though you deserve these things, I love you, bro. And oh man, if David, people have their mixed feelings on David. If David is treat his son like that, bro.
Mercy.
Imagine how God treats his children.
David's camp won the war, but David mourned bitterly. Because for him, he did not only lose a foe, he lost a son. This was a bittersweet victory for David, because although he was very sad, he was quickly reminded by Joab that his soldiers and his country needed their king. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.